Hello, I'm Lauren Weston, Executive Director of Acterra Action for a Healthy Planet. Our Exergy TV show today focuses on the Santa Clara Valley, how today's Silicon Valley sprang from the Valley of Heart's Delight, and how we can bring some of that agricultural paradise back into our daily lives. First, some context about this warm and wonderful land, where the climate suits our clothes and is home to so many of us. In the 1920s, groundwater subsidence from agricultural overpumping collapsed aquifers and dropped ground levels as much as 13 feet. Santa Clara Valley Water, now present-day Exergy TV sponsor Valley Water, was formed in 1929 to address water supply stewardship. From the 1920s through the 1960s, Santa Clara enjoyed a reputation as the Valley of Heart's Delight, the largest canning and dried fruit packing center in the world. Valley populations in 1939 for the region included Sunnyvale being just over 3,000, Santa Clara just over 6,000, Mountain View over 3,000, and San Jose having 57,561 residents. The 1950s saw the start of urban and suburban development and sprawl for a growing, booming population, fueled by massive manufacturing development. In the 1970s, the first urban development policies were approved to curb this sprawl. And in 1977, a company named for the disappearing orchards, Apple, was incorporated. The 1990s brought urban growth, boundaries, especially in the Coyote Valley, and by 2012, land classified as important farmland was down 36% to 27,000 acres. The county's population, under 60,000 in 1939, hit 1.8 million people. In the telling of this, I'm reminded of a song, Joni Mitchell's Big Yellow Taxi, released in 1970, the same year as the first Earth Day and of Acterra's founding. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot, packed a real punch, bluntly describing the conversion of fertile, productive soil into blacktop heat islands. They took all the trees and put them in a tree museum. Despite this transformation, there are efforts to swing the pendulum back, especially in light of inequitable development. A warming climate creates dangerous heat conditions, hotter, drier, and more extreme, in less than leafy and less than wealthy neighborhoods. Today's guest, Melissa Charpontier, will tell us about the Educare Food Project from the Santee neighborhood of San Jose, spearheaded by Acterra's Homegrown Bay Area program. This reminds me of another song, this time from the Talking Heads, David Byrne's cheerfully ironic Nothing But Flowers. This used to be real estate, now it's only fields and trees. The highways and cars were sacrificed for agriculture. Once there were parking lots, now it's a peaceful oasis. We have a long way to go towards cooling our built environment and reclaiming our links to the land. Hopefully, projects like Santee Food Forest can restore some balance and make a difference. Now here's our host, Melissa Dinwiddie, in conversation with Melissa Charpontier.
Hello, welcome to Exergy TV. I'm your host, Melissa Dinwiddie. Melissa Charpontier is a San Jose-based urban designer, permaculture designer, and landscape architect, and the owner of the Botany of Design firm. She creates gardens and public spaces around the Bay Area, and she also advocates for food justice and climate solutions. Let's investigate Lisa's vision of healthy nutrition, community building, food education, and climate action via the green corridors of food forests. Lisa Charpontier, thank you for making the time.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you very much for having me.
It's so great to have you. First, let's talk about some definitions. Describe the heat island effect. How much difference do trees and plants make to a community?
So in our cities, that's where we are mostly affected by the heat island effect. With a lot of concrete and other hard surfaces, these surfaces absorb the sun and then reflect it out, and it can increase the temperatures. So what trees are wonderful, and one of the many wonderful things that they do is that they help cool this heat island effect. They provide shade, of course, and they also draw up the water in their roots and then evapotranspirate the water, and that also cools the air. And some studies show that the temperature reduction can be as much as 3 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow, that's a lot.
It makes a big difference.
Makes a really big difference. Then tell me, what are some of the attributes of a food desert?
So that's another thing that we experience in our communities as well. This is often something that is experienced in communities that are lower income, where access to healthy and nurturing food is unavailable within a walking distance. So instead of local healthy food, people have instead liquor stores or fast food restaurants. Even people have to get food from gas stations in some locations.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It is.
And then there's another phrase that I had never heard before, which is food forest. What is a food forest, and how is it different from a community garden model that many might already be familiar with?
So a food forest is similar to the community garden model. It's also a little bit similar to an urban forest as well. And what is really different from the community garden model is that people don't sign up and pay for plots. It's actually open to everybody to harvest free food in a responsible manner. The forest aspect also is there are various layers within the forest. So there's the trees and then lower layers, and a total of 7 different layers. And these different layers help to nurture the plants themselves and nurture the soil as well.
Wow, that sounds so fascinating. So where have food forests been tried, and where have they been successful?
Food forests have been, they exist all over the world and have existed throughout time. And it's really kind of mimicking what would naturally happen in nature. And so there's, within the United States, there's an example of the Boston Food Forest. And they have a really interesting model that our group is looking to for inspiration. So their organization helps different communities find land in their neighborhood and then turn that into a food forest. And so they build a coalition of food forests. More locally, we have in Santa Cruz, we have the Chadwick Garden, and that's at UC Santa Cruz, and that has been lovingly stewarded for many, many years. And also in downtown Santa Cruz, they have a very small food forest. So most of the food forests are loved by the many volunteers and the stewards of the land. But sometimes if they don't have a strong volunteer base, then they do, they lack that care, and they're still doing okay, and people get surprised and excited when they come across them as they're walking down the street. But they're not as successful if they don't have a strong volunteer base.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, and then the last definition is, what is permaculture?
So permaculture is a concept that was coined, I believe it was in the 1970s, by Bill Molson and David Holcomb from Australia, and they put together the terms permanent and agriculture. And really this is something that many people had used as original kind of farming, ways of farming in the forest. But the idea was to bring those principles to a wider audience and to help them to spread, so that when you're growing things, rather than just growing annual crops, which you switch out every season, to include more perennials, which are more permanent crops. This idea also applies to water. So there are principles around water where you want to be able to keep your water in the land rather than drain off into the streets and into the sewage system. So you slow it, sink it, and spread it so that way the water stays on the land and nurtures the land and the ecosystem within the soil. It also applies nowadays to economics as well, and so systems that can be sustainable, circular economics, and that type of concept.
Thank you for explaining that.
Absolutely.
All right, so can you take us through the Educare Public Food Forest?
So the Educare Public Food Forest is our first site. Our group has been working together for several years, and we were introduced to the group at Educare, and they were very excited to collaborate with us. So we have a small plot, and we have designed it using the permaculture principles, and we've invited the community to give their input and encourage them to join us with caring for the space and harvesting as well. And we are inspired that within the Silicon Valley, we used to be known as the Valley of Heart's Delight. And so we're hearkening back to that, but at that time there was a lot that was done wrong, and so we're trying to learn from those mistakes using the permaculture principles, being very inclusive, and really opening the space up to the entire community with the principles that food is a human right, and there should always be places where people can go to receive free, nutritious food.
Amazing. I love this vision. So tell us about the site. This is in the Santee neighborhood in San Jose, is that right?
Yeah, it's in the Santee neighborhood, and this neighborhood is bordered, kind of really surrounded by heavily trafficked corridors. There's 280, 101, Story Road, and McLaughlin Avenue. So they're really impacted by traffic, by this heat island effect that we spoke of earlier, because there's just the hard surfaces all around them. They don't have a lot of tree coverage. As of 2022, there was about 11.8% tree coverage, which is pretty low. And they don't have much park space, and tends to be more lower income neighborhoods. So they're really unserved by our community.
Sounds like a great location for a food forest.
It is, and we intentionally wanted to reach out to neighborhoods that had this need.
Awesome. And what are some of the features? Take us through some of the planting design.
So we really want this space to be beautiful and lush and welcoming and engaging to build community. And so in doing that, it really is a forest of trees. So you have a dense coverage of trees that producing many different types of fruit and forming many different types of ecosystems. We asked the community to give us input on what types of foods that they wanted, so that they would be culturally appropriate to the community that will be visiting the food forest on a regular basis. We've also included things like rain barrel to collect rain, bulletin boards so that we can post information, people can communicate with one another, a free library for seeds. There's a large shaded area under a pergola to offer a gathering space so people can eat their harvest right there, or gather with friends, or we can host events as well.
It just sounds wonderful. What? Tell me more about the Educare goals for the project?
So Educare is a very caring place, and they really nurture the families that participate in their programs. So they really wanted this food forest to both serve their community as well as the surrounding neighborhood and really all of San Jose. So they wanted to be able to offer foods that were culturally appropriate and that wouldn't be easy to find in any grocery store. They also want to support food security in the community. This could be a place that if somebody's cooking their dinner, they could just come down and cut off some herbs and bring it in for preparing for their meal. They really agree with the environmental benefits of a food forest as well, helping to mitigate this urban heat effect, to sequestrate carbon sequestration so that the trees can draw down the carbon and help to mitigate climate change. They also envisioned a habitat for birds and other insects, and absorbing stormwater, keeping it on site. So it's been a real collaboration, and they had a lot of input for us.
Wonderful. I understand you also did a SWOT analysis in your report.
We did, and a SWOT analysis kind of looks at the existing conditions, what are the strengths and weaknesses, and the opportunities and the threats of the space. So it's really helpful to do that when you start out so that you can understand where you're at, and that can help guide you to where you want to go. So some of the strengths were this really strong existing relationship between our homegrown Bay Area group and the Educare group, where there was a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excitement about the project, a really big vision. So that in itself is a really good strength. There were some existing plants that we could build on. The site has really good soil, and there's a really strong volunteer base on both sides, both through Educare and through the Homegrown Bay Area project. Some of the drawbacks are there's some irrigation work that we need to do. It is a small site, but amazingly when you enter that site, it feels much larger, and you feel a largeness just being in the space, immersed in the space. And then there's also potential for vandalism, but really the space seems like it's well secured, and the community does seem like it's taking care of the overall space.
Very cool. I love that you did that SWOT analysis. It's so important. What is the role of Acterra and other organizations for building coalitions?
So with Acterra, we had the initiative around the time of COVID where we wanted to, we were seeing that there were systems breakdown for our food system, and there were people who were having a hard time getting healthy food. And so Acterra developed the initiative and developed various groups in different cities. And so our group wanted to provide that reliable food source, as well as being able to address climate change by creating food forests. And so we have been reaching out to find land. We have been raising funding for it. And then we also have the permaculture training so that we can design the spaces. We also have collaborations with other organizations, so where we can spread the word about the work that we are doing. And our vision is to be able to get more funding so that we can have a strong group of, because most of our effort right now is volunteer based. we have the vision that we can get some funding so that we can have a group that can spread the food forest effort, so we can get those green corridors throughout San Jose. And we are also organizing the volunteer labor to help maintain the space, as well as helping to host the events that will take place in the food forest.
And are you getting a lot of interest from community members?
We are. It's been wonderful. So we've already started hosting some events. We had an event where we wanted to get input from the community and what they would like to see in the space. And there was a large group of elders who live in the neighborhood, and they were very excited. They were telling us about what they did historically with their gardening practices, and some of them were had moved here from different countries, and so they told us how they did it in their countries, and said that they wanted to learn how we were going to be what we were going to be teaching for gardening, and they were very excited about it. They said that they would be interested in visiting the food forest on a daily basis.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, we also had some interest from San Jose City Council members. They have offered their support, as well as county supervisors. And the EdgeCare community has been very supportive, and also we're looking to reach out to other schools in the neighborhood as well.
Oh, wonderful. And if other community members want to get involved, how can they do that?
We have, on Acterra's website, we have our initiative on there, which tells a little bit more about what we're doing. And those who want to get involved can just express their interests, and we will contact them and let them know how they can participate and get involved.
Fantastic. And what is the timeline for this project?
So currently we're working on just kind of still cleaning up the space, weeding and nurturing the soil, mulching, and working on the irrigation. And we're targeting completing that by the end of summer. And once we complete that, we will then begin to plant, and that's the fun part. And so we'll plant it according to the plan that we've developed. And once we plant the space, it will need some time to fill in and to really be able to offer a harvest, but there will be some harvest that can be collected fairly early on. And then we'll start programming the space, hosting events, and developing classes, and encouraging people to come in and really use the space. And that will begin as soon as we get the space planted.
Great. And is there a budget for the Santee site?
So we are fortunate to have a lot of volunteer effort. So labor, a lot of that is covered by volunteer effort, and we have some materials donations as well. And so with all of that, we're looking at probably a $12,000 to $15,000 budget. Should get us to a good starting point. Just for building it, and then the maintenance part after that will be a separate budget.
Mm-hmm. It's incredibly reasonable for such an incredible project. So I'm very curious, how will you measure success with this project?
We will consider ourselves successful if we see a beautiful, lush, green, nurturing space where you can hear bird song and you can see bees buzzing around and butterflies, and the community is visiting it, and you see them happy and laughing together and enjoying the space. That's our goal. So how are we going to measure that? We have the plan to kind of measure how much, the quality, and what types of harvest that our visitors are able to collect over time, and we'll see how many visitors we have, how many volunteers we have, and really just reach out to the community and get their input on how they appreciate the space and how we could do better to better meet the needs of the community. And I think through that monitoring over time, that continual kind of back and forth conversation, that will help us to make sure that the project is successful.
Yeah, I think you're right. And how would you grow the project?
So we have a big dream to grow the project. This idea that has been mentioned of the green corridors throughout San Jose. So this is really envisioned to be a pilot project. And once we get this project going, we hope to invite others to come and visit the site. We've already been talking to other neighborhood leaders and letting them know what we've been doing. We have a petition that we've been inviting the community to sign, showing their support for having food forests within San Jose. We are also going to have events, and so as people attend events, then they'll learn about the space and share with others. We're also collaborating with other organizations. So we have a potential event planned with the San Jose team of the California Donut Economics Coalition, where they will be able to offer some information about the work that they're doing to the community. We will all do some volunteer work together, and then just share a plant forward meal together in this lovely, comfortable space. And we also need to increase our funding. That will enable us to spend more time reaching out to others and have the funding to design and build more food forests, and really just getting the word out like you're helping us to do here.
Which we are very happy to do.
Thank you so much.
And we are in the home stretch. We have a magic wand question that we like to ask. If you were given a magic wand for a day, what would you do with it?
It's a fun question. I think I would really like to use the magic wand to encourage our communities to have kindness and care. And I think with those two things, we could get a lot done. I think about Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer and her book, The Service Berry, and how that relates to the food forest, where we're able to have this gift economy where we can care enough about one another, where we're willing to give of ourselves and have that vulnerability between each other, be able to look each other in the eyes, be able to get to know each other better, show that care towards each other. I also think about Kate Rayworth and Donut Economics, where we're thinking about meeting the needs of everyone in our community, so that everybody can thrive. We're not wanting to forget about anybody, our elders or those who don't speak up as loudly. We want to care and think about everybody and make sure while we're doing that we're also taking care of our planet and not impacting the planet in a negative way. And so that care is building a better community. And then finally, I think about Rutger Bregman and his concept of moral ambition. I'm currently reading this book right now, and I'm so inspired that a lot of us, especially those of us who might be considered progressive, know about issues, know about what needs to be done, know about climate change, know about social justice issues, and then that's kind of where we stop. And I think that with that added care, we won't be able to stop there. That will make us driven to do more, to achieve that moral ambition. There are so many talented people all around us, and if we could use that talent in combination with care, we could make a beautiful community. We could make sure that all of us thrive, and we all understand that food is a human right, that we all have respect for one another, and just build a wonderful, thriving community together.
Thank you. Lisa, thank you for coming on Exergy TV and filling us in on possible solutions for the people of Santa Clara County, the Bay Area, and California. This is Melissa Dinwiddie for Exergy TV. See you next time for more tales of Bay Area sustainability.